All right, guys, this video is going to cover chemical and physical properties. We're just going to hit right into it. There's a lot of writing in this section of notes, so please feel free to abbreviate where necessary. Obviously, you don't need to write down all of these properties on the left side. These are just examples of different types of properties. The big things you need to pay attention to are the definitions on the right. So the chemical property describes the ability of these substances to undergo changes. So that's the big thing. Anytime you have a chemical property is the ability to change and transform into different substances. Some sort of chemical reaction must be performed in order to observe these properties. Great. Physical properties describe the substance itself. It can be observed or measured without altering its identity. That's the big thing. Any chemical properties allows it to change. Physical properties are just observations and measurements of the substance itself. So now we're going to take all these properties that are on the left, and we're going to characterize them. I know your notes, you've got just a little bit of space to write these down, so just write down a few of them. But you see on the chemical side, ability to, react. You see the difference. Those are telling you how the substance is changing. If it reacts with an acid or a base, the substance is changing. If it explodes, obviously it's exchanging. So anytime it changes substance, or it describes the ability to change substance, that's your chemical property. Physical properties, on the other hand, they never change. It's always going to have a mass. It's always going to have the same density. That's a big one right there. Make sure you understand that. It's always going to have the same boiling point. So write a few of those down in those example boxes that you have. And pause it if you feel like you need to. Okay, now furthermore, we can take those physical and chemical properties and separate them further into two more categories called extensive or instantive. Extensive properties depend on the amount of matter present. So if I give you more of something, that extensive property will change. Intensive properties do not depend on the amount of matter present. Another big thing about intensive physical properties is that they can be used to identify a substance. Those are the big things. And you can write down that, or you can just abbreviate as well. But here, you can take those. Then it says example 3.1. It's actually example 2 on the bottom right of your notes there, and we've gone ahead and separated them for you. But you can see the extensive properties. If I give you a gallon of gasoline, it's going to have a certain amount of energy. If I give you 10 gallons of gasoline, obviously it's going to produce more energy. If I give you a yard of yarn, and then I give you 35 yards of yarn, obviously you can make an object with a bigger area. 35 yards is bigger than 1 yard of yarn. Okay, great. If I give you 1 marble, it's going to have certain mass. If I give you 50 marbles, the mass has changed. That's what we're talking about, is that extensive physical properties depend on the amount of matter present. On the intensive side, a drop of water will have the same boiling point as a gallon of water. It might reach that boiling point quicker with 1 drop, but the boiling point is still 100 degrees for water. It will always shine. If I give you 5 pounds of gold versus 30 pounds of gold, they're going to shine the same. If I give you 1 stinky sock and 30 stinky socks, they all produce the same odor. They always can conduct heat. If I give you more or take away less, they're always still going to have the same conductivity of heat. That's what we're talking about. I hope you see the differences with that. People tend to struggle with these 2 categories, but we'll focus on that a lot in class, so don't worry about it too much if you're not quite getting it yet. Now this might not be in your notes. Hopefully by the time this unit comes around, we've added it in. If not, just kind of make do on the back. This is a really good test to whether you know intensive or extensive in physical and chemical. So we've got this example, we've got this statement. Now we're just going to go through and write the numbers of each of the properties. So which ones are physical properties? Okay, well, sodium is soft, so that's going to be a physical property. It's silvery colored. Okay, that's a physical property. Let's see here. It's got a density. That's a physical property. It weighs 2 grams. That's a physical property. So far, they're all physical properties. It burns with a yellow flame. That's flammability. So that is a chemical property, which is going to be down here at the bottom. So we'll put 5 right down there. It reacts vigorously with chlorine. That's a reaction. So that's going to be a chemical property. And it melts at 97.7. So that's a melting point. It's still going to be sodium. And still melting and boiling, it's still sodium regardless of what's going on. So both 7 and 8 are physical. Okay, now extensive versus intensive. Let's go through them again. Sodium is soft. If I have a pound of sodium versus 10 pounds of sodium, did the softness change? It did not. So it does not depend on the amount present. So that's an extensive property. It is silvery colored. Sorry. Let's fix that. So sodium is soft. It does not, 10 pounds of sodium and 30 pounds of sodium are still going to have the same softness. It's not going to get harder or softer because I gave you more. So it does not depend on the amount present, which means it's intensive. Silvery colored. If I give you a pound of silver and 50 pounds of silver, it's still going to have the same color. So it does not depend on the amount. So it's an intensive property. It's got a density. Density will never change. We'll play with that in lab. You might be weird at that if you're really good at math. We'll prove it to you in lab. 2-gram sample. It's mass. That can change. I can make a 5-gram sample if I wanted to. So that's our first extensive right there. 4. It burns with a yellow flame. It's flammability. Yeah, it's going to be extensive. It burns with a yellow flame. That can be, we can classify that as amount of energy, but it's flammable, so it's going to be extensive. If we give it more, it's going to burn more, obviously. So that's going to be another extensive, so that's 5. It reacts vigorously with chlorine gas. So the more it's there, the more it's going to react. So that can depend on the amounts. That's extensive as well. And then its melting point and its boiling point, those are always going to stay the same. So those are both going to be intensive. So 7, 8. Now you're going to see a lot more of these. We'll probably have one we show up for class the next day. They might take some practice, but that's okay. We're going to work through them. So don't feel bad if you're struggling with these. They can kind of mess with your mind a little bit. I'll see you in class.